It sits in the center of San Antonio, Texas. The Alamo, birthplace of the Republic of Texas. 187 brave men died defending the cradle of Texas liberty. Names like Davy Crockett, James Bowie, and William Barrett Travis are household names because of their heroic stand. The Alamo provides a vivid reminder of the travails that men and women will endure for their beliefs. Today, San Antonio's scenic Riverwalk is a prime attraction for people from around the world. And on the horizon looms the beginnings of a major step in the city's future. The Alamo Dome Sports Complex, certain to be the future location of many inspiring sports performances. But today, such performances will take place just north of San Antonio in the scenic Texas Hill Country. Canyon Lake on the Guadalupe River is a favorite playground for thousands of Texans. But every September, hundreds of the world's finest endurance athletes converge on Canyon Lake for anything but play, in what has become known as one of the most challenging events in the sport of triathlon. Today, over 900 athletes from around the world will endure their own personal travails as they take on the 1991 Texas Hill Country Triathlon. Hi everyone, I'm Steve King and welcome to the 1991 Texas Hill Country Triathlon, one of the country's premier triathlon events. This year, however, the status has been raised somewhat because it is now one of the 12 races in the World Cup Series. That means also that we're going to see more of the world's leading triathletes. Amongst the triathletes we were hoping to see compete was the six-time World Ironman champion Dave Scott. Unfortunately, Dave has had to withdraw, but he is here today to work with us on commentary, and we look forward to hearing his expertise as to what's happening. Dave, good morning.
Thank you, Steve.
You've been over this course before. Maybe you could describe it for us.
Well, I was here in 1988, and I had the experience of the Texas Hill Country. The event is a very challenging event. It starts off with a 1.5 mile rectangular swim. It's a lake swim. The water's warm. It really shouldn't present too much trouble for the athletes. But the bike course is a difficult one. It's a 48-mile, pretty much a loop course, hill after hill after hill. If the athletes go too hard at the beginning, they're going to suffer at the latter part, and it'll certainly affect the run. The run course has been changed slightly. We've added a 2-mile little bump, and that big bump is really going to play havoc on the athletes. It'll be a tough day.
Now, when it comes down to the athletes, David, one of the things is that we do have last year's defending champion. In fact, he's won this event 3 times. That is Ken Glar of the U.S. Also, last year's second placer, Jeff Devlin. Who do you see as being their main competition?
Well, Kenny Glass has been very tough, and he's obviously proved it on this course, 3-time winner, but he's coming off a Ironman race 2 weeks ago in Canada, a very difficult race, and certainly the recovery time in 2 weeks will be questionable. He's going to be challenged by Mark Allen. Mark is unprecedented world best athlete, and he comes in here with a pretty unblemished record. He, along with Jeff and several international athletes, including Greg Welch, who is the reigning world champion, I think will present the biggest obstacles.
And in the ladies' race, Dave, we have Jan Wanklin, a third placer last year. She's returning, but who's her main competition?
Well, Jan's going to be hard-pressed. Again, she's in the same predicament that her husband Kenny is in. They both did the Ironman race. Carol Montgomery, I feel, is the real threat of the event. She's never competed in a race of this duration, but she has extraordinary cycling and run times, and I think that she's going to be a main competitor. Also, we've got Jan Ripple, who is a short course champion.
Could there be any surprises in the women's race?
Well, we've got an international field, and Fernanda Keller from Brazil should also give the women a run for the money. She is also coming off the Ironman Canada race just 2 weeks ago.
We should also point out that this is also an Ironman Hawaii qualifying race. Also working on our team this morning is Greg Simmons, a broadcaster with KSAT and San Antonio. Greg, you're going to be on special assignment this morning. Can you tell us about that?
Well, Steve, the beauty of this event happens to be the fact that the average briefcase-toting athlete can compete with the pros on the same course at the same time. And prior to today's event, I asked some of them, why do you do it?
Favorite race. I love the attitude here. It's about, making triathlon part of your life, and people are here to qualify for Ironman, obviously, so it's competitive, but it's also fun, and I love country music.
There you have it. That's why they do it. They love to compete. It's the challenge that brings a lot of these people out here, Steve.
Well, thanks, Greg. Well, we're in for an exciting race today, and soon we'll be seeing the start of the 1991 Texas Hill Country Triathlon. Stay with us. We're back for the start of the Texas Hill Country Triathlon, the World Cup Series event. The more than 800 triathletes will be entering the waters of Canyon Lake, representing 40 states and 12 countries. With the sheer numbers involved, the swimmers will begin at different times according to their respective categories. There will be 6 waves of swimmers, with 30 minutes separating the first wave, consisting of the professional men, and the last wave, which will include the relay teams. Wave starts also lessen the possibility of drafting in the bike stage, as the athletes will be well spread out by the time all of them are on the 48-mile bike course. We're ready to begin. So the professional men are off and swimming. Dave, what can we expect to see from them?
Steve, this is one of the few events that does not allow the use of wetsuits. In most of the wetsuit races, the fast swimmers try to break away and establish a lead. In this swim, I think we're going to see more of a tactical swim. The top pros are probably going to pack together and not really try to make a breakaway move because they're going to draft behind the swimmer that will be in front of them. So overall, I think the swim is going to be a slow group swim.
But it doesn't appear too slow right now, Dave, and the man leading them through the first couple of 100 meters is Peter Kane of Cupertino, California. But the women are about to get underway. There they go. 15 of the world's top professional female triathletes are heading off with 1.5 miles of swimming ahead of them. David, what can we expect to see from them?
Steve, everyone knows that the name of the game on the swim is to follow the person just in front of you, i.e. to get someone who's a little bit faster than you are and try to stick it within their draft period. And that draft space is about 1 meter. If you can stay within a meter behind the person in front of you, then you can conserve about 15 to 20% of your energy, which is obviously going to help when you get to the cycling and the run segment.
Certainly can, and we have to remember that the greatest number of triathletes here today are not professionals. Greg, tell us about them.
Steve, there is no turning back now. The race is underway. And unlike past years when the goal was just to finish this endurance race, now for these athletes, they're competing to win their age groups.
Well, we should remember, Greg, that this event has been the National Long Course Championships for the past 3 years. And so the honor of being an age group winner at this event is one that means a great deal to the nation's top age group athletes. And they include athletes ages ranging from 16 through to 68. And among those triathletes waiting on the beach is one very well-respected triathlete who Greg will tell us more about later. But back to the swim, leading them out front once again. Peter Kane is our present leader as they head towards that first buoy. Peter Kane, a man who did a lot of races in the Pacific Northwest. He's won Ventura before as well, so he certainly is a very fine swimmer. He'll do well today if he can place in the top 10. He'll be trying to get that preem. That's a $250 bonus for the fastest male and female, but it also means that you have to place overall in the top 10 to claim that. Amongst our leaders also out there, we can see Mark Allen and Ken Glar. They're at 2nd and 3rd right now. And up front in the ladies' race is Claudia Cortez from Santiago, Chile in 1st place. We have Jan Ripple from the US. She's a member of their national team and a past winner here at the Texas Hill Country Triathlon. Alongside her is the Canadian champion Carol Montgomery. Just behind them we have Kathy Sloan of San Diego and last year's 3rd placer Jan Wanklin, the Australian. 5 very strong female swimmers out front as they head towards that first buoy and make the turn. And in fact, already they have pulled back one of the men's professionals. That's saying something. I'm not sure for the ladies or that man out there. He's obviously a strong biker and runner. I would hope so. He'll be trying to make up time on that. So they've already pulled 2 minutes back of one of the lead men who went out in the first wave. So Claudia Cortez leading them through the first quarter of a mile. We have some age groupers now heading off with about 150 in each age group wave. And what a scenic look that is off the start for these as they head towards that first buoy. Remember the distance, over distance for many of these, 1.5 miles as they splash and thrash for space in Canyon Lake. As the leading pack of 8 men now swim parallel to the beach for the first time, they're able to look to their right and they can see that swim finish some 600 meters away. They have one more buoy to go past. They'll turn right and then head directly towards the ramp. And remember, there's a lot at stake here because there's a preem. Bonus money on the line for the fastest male to exit the waters of Canyon Lake. And right now, that man is Peter Kane. He is heading up Ken Glar, the three-time winner here. We've got Mark Allen, Brian Murchison, the first Texan, Ray Browning of Ironman fame. We have Christian Bustos of Chile and Gary Flack from Santa Barbara, California. The time now closing in on 29 minutes. Usually the swimmers exit in about 33, 34 minutes, and it looks as though that's exactly what they're going to be doing here again today. The women not too far behind them, also rounding the final buoy. But look what's happened here. Carol Montgomery, the Canadian, has now taken control of the swim event. Remember, she's come a long way to do this. It's her first time doing this sort of distance, even in the swim portion. So she held back a little, pacing herself sensibly. Again, she wants to come away with a bonus here for the swim part. That's a lady who didn't used to come out of the swim in the top 10, but it is Peter Kane, the first man to exit the water. He now has to run up to that racemate timing bullseye, slap it there with the transponder, get his time, and if he does that first, he has won the preem here. He's done it. In fact, he has a 33.06 his time, but let's see who's right behind him. I think it is Ken Glar, yes, second man to hit that. Then there's Greg Welch, the world champion, Mark Allen, Ray Browning, Gary Flack. That's the order in which they're exiting now. So we have 6, 7 men out of the water. Brian Murchison also in there, and Christian Bustos, he's coming out shortly, the 8th man out of that pack. So let's see what happens here in the transition area, see who the first man out is. They're very close, just a few seconds separating the top 8 men. It is Ken Glar from Westchester, Pennsylvania, ranked number 1. He's going out onto the 48-mile bike course in first place. Mark Allen losing some valuable seconds there in the transition area. And that is number 14 also just going out there. Brian Murchison just ahead of him. I think we had Gary Flack. That is Mark Allen going out in about 5th place from transition. But remember, he's probably the best cyclist along with Greg Welch in the field. There's Ray Browning now. He also lost a little bit of time, and Gary Flack just going out behind Ray. Gary Flack did very well last year in the USTS. And now we have another pro. It is Jeff Devlin, the man who placed 2nd overall last year. Now, he's lost about 3 to 3.5 minutes in the swim, but he's known as a really good cyclist to run and would look to make up time there. We look at the women now, the top women in the pro division. They have pulled back some 4 or 5 of the pro men who left 2 minutes ahead of them, and indeed it is Carol Montgomery, the first pro lady to exit the swim. So, Carol Montgomery is the first one going up to that racemate bullseye, and she's about to slap it. She does so in 35.26, a magnificent swim for the distance for Carol. In 2nd place, 4 seconds back, Jan Ripple, then Jan Wankin, and Claudia Cortez, the lady who led them through the first half a mile or so. She is in 4th place at 35.39, along with Janet Stamper Holland and Kathy Sloan. Those are the top 5 coming out of the water, and there are just 21 seconds therefore separating numbers 1 through to 6. So let's see who is the first lady out. There's Nick Martin just going through, won the pro men. So these ladies have swum really well there. 35 minutes plus for them, a very good time for the distance. So it looks like Canadian champion Carol Montgomery, a lady who's had a tremendous season so far. We have to remember she was the 2nd best in the world last year to Karen Smyers of the US. She heads out onto the 48-mile bike course. No time at all lost in the transition area, but Claudia Cortez having some difficulty unracking her bike there. She had a great swim, but look at this, all sorts of seconds now being lost as she tries to get the bike off the rack. She's done so, and she'll be heading out now. We have Kathy Sloan going out. She's from San Diego, a great cyclist. She can do very well on the cycle portion. There goes Claudia, and just ahead of her is Janet Stamper Holland of Tucson, Arizona. So Jan Ripple out, I believe, in 3rd place, and Jan Wanklin out in 2nd place onto the bike course. There is Kathy Sloan, and we look to Greg Welch now. He's in 2nd place, looking behind him to see who's with him, and it is none other than Mark Allen, the man known as the Grip. The excitement has just begun. Stay with us for more coverage of the 1991 Texas Hill Country Triathlon. We're looking at our leaders in this World Cup Series race, the Texas Hill Country Triathlon. Let's take a look at the map of the course. It's almost double the international distance of 40 kilometers, and what makes this course so demanding are the continuous climbs and descents that go on throughout the entire 48-mile loop. Dave Scott is out there following the race. Let's go over to Ironman Dave right now to find out what's happening.
We just completed about 9 miles of the race. We've got 3 leaders together. They've interchanged the lead. Ken Glar, Mark Allen, and Greg Welch. They just probably finished the toughest section that they had to go into a 20-mile headwind, and now it should be a little bit easier. They'll have a tailwind for about the next 8 miles.
And the man presently in 4th place is Ironman specialist Ray Browning. He does a lot of training in Boulder, Colorado. With him there was Gary Flack in 5th place. Coming up for 6th and 7th, we have Peter Kane, who was the fastest man out of the water. And right behind him, Brian Murchison, the first Texan, the man who placed 9th overall here last year. Let's go back to Dave and find out what these men have to do, because they're that far off the pace right now. How can they get back up there, Dave?
The difficulty the athletes are going to find that are in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th place is that now they're going to be out of eyesight of their front runners. There's a lot of undulating hills in this next segment of the course, and if you're not within a minute or so of eyesight, it'll seem like it's eternity until you can catch the front runners. They've got to make sure that psychologically they don't ease up at this point because they still have plenty of miles to go in the rest of the race. This is Christian Bustos coming around the turn now, just about 2 minutes down behind the 3 leaders in front.
So Bustos already has lost some time there to our leaders, but a lady who's making up a lot of time is Canadian Carol Montgomery. She is extending her lead at this point into the bike course. Remember, she is just into the first 10 miles. There is a long way to go. Discarding a bottle there, she needs to take on lots of liquids. This is her first time ever racing in Texas. And remember, right behind her, she has a lady who has won this event before in the form of Jan Ripple, a member of the U.S. national team who just reclaimed a berth on that team. And in 3rd place, Jan Wanklin, the lady who placed 3rd overall here last year, and she's had a phenomenal season with a couple of wins. Back to the transition area, though. There's lots of activity and excitement. Let's go to Greg.
Steve, any minute we're expecting to see Jim McLaren. What a remarkable story he is. A triathlete who is competing with most of his left leg amputated following a motorcycle accident in 1985.
And Jim McLaren has done an Ironman as well. In fact, he holds the Ironman world record for an amputee. He competed here before, did a very good placing last year, just over 4.5 hours, I believe. So he's out for a personal best, as are many of the people who have returned once again to this great event. But already some people are having difficulties even before they get out onto the bike course. Others out on the bike course, they're having flats, the chains are coming off, a lot of problems for some people, but remember, we have a lot of people out there to help them too, over 1,800 volunteers today. And Greg Simmons is with someone who's having some difficulty out there on the bike course.
Ted Thrasher has just suffered a breakdown here on the course of this 48-mile bike run. With me here is Bill Simon of Bike World. What can you do for him out here on the course?
Unfortunately, I can't do a thing. The rules of this sport say that they can't receive any technical assistance, so I sit and watch them. Did you get it?
I think so.
Doesn't look bad, so it looks like Ted may be on his way here all the way from Lafayette, Louisiana. They got him going again. He's back out on the course. Good news, Steve.
It certainly is. We're pleased to hear that, Greg, but we understand there's another one out now. That's John Dow of Boulder, Colorado. Let's go over to him.
I hit a cone and went doink over and over.
Show him your doink.
Oh, yes, indeed. That's a nasty one there. Unfortunately, John is out of the race, and another man, one of the pros, has also taken a tumble on this very tough course. It's Ray Browning, the man who was in 4th position. Now he's dropped back to 5th, but a gutsy effort from Ray just to get back on the bike after that. Look at that road rash. This is a man who is an Ironman specialist. He's won in Ironman Canada on 3 occasions, but he's back in the race. Let's go over to Dave with our leaders.
Steve, we're about an hour and a half into the race right now, and Greg Welch, Mark Allen, and Kenny Glaw have really taken command of the race. They've got about a 3.5-minute lead over the 3rd and 4th athletes, and this next part of the course is a very easy part of the course. They should be able to pick up some speed. They will have a little tailwind for the next 8 miles, and I think they'll probably open up their gap a little bit more.
So, as we've taken a look at our leaders, let's take a look at the back of the packer here. It is the final man to be exiting the swim. It is racer number 816, Andrew Voigt, and he's just going to make the cutoff time. As he comes up the ramp, he doesn't seem to be aware that he's that close to it, but we know he's got about 1 minute left to get past that race mate timing chute to be allowed to continue with the race. Yes, he knows now. He's been told, so he's running up there to that chute. He just has to tap that and on his way onto the bike. In the women's race, there's a great battle developing here between 2nd and 3rd places. Jan Ripple back in 2nd place, just ahead of Kathy Sloan, but these two have been going backwards and forwards for the last couple of miles. Jan Ripple obviously in some trouble. She's been stretching out quite a bit of the last kilometre there on the bike course. She's had some problems before in ultra-distance races such as the Ironman. Jan Ripple on a new titanium frame bike, doing very well. Remember, she is a short-distance specialist, in fact. She was 2nd in the World Championships to Erin Baker of New Zealand in 1989. But coming alongside her once again, there is Kathy Sloan. There's a pro man to her inside. She looks across at him to see who it is. She looks to her left, and there is Kathy Sloan once again. It'll be interesting to know if they say anything to each other, but Kathy Sloan right now should probably try and make a quick pass to get ahead and try and open up some distance between them. Yeah, Kathy and Jan exchanging a few words before Kathy tries to pull away, and she's done so. She's opened up a few meters. So Kathy Sloan opened up just a few meters on Jan Ripple, but she is a very tough lady. She's not going to quit, and she comes back at her once again. So it is Jan Ripple now back into 2nd place. So as we've watched the ladies, let's ask Dave what's going on with the men out front.
Steve, Greg and Mark have now opened up about a 15-second lead on Kenny. He's beginning to show the effects, I think, of the Canadian race, and psychologically this is a tough part of the course. We're about 2/3 into the race, but he's got to hang in there so that he can still psychologically stay with him on the first part of the run.
And he'll certainly be trying to do that, Dave. We have to remember he's won this event on 3 previous occasions. Our leaders are now approaching one of the many aid stations on the course. They're manned by hundreds of the volunteers, and this is where they can pick up some water and Cytomax electrolyte replacement fluid. They'll certainly need lots of that during the course of this 48 miles. Greg Simmons is alongside Jim McLaren out there on the bike course. Let's listen in.
You happy with the way you're doing so far?
Yeah, I bonked a little early on the bike. I think going out too hard, but it's all right. Come back on the run.
We're pulling for you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And so as our leaders enter the final few miles of the bike stage, our leader, not unexpectedly, is Mark Allen, but right behind him, the 1990 world champion Greg Welch, and then some 7 seconds back, Ken Glar. We'll be back with more coverage of the bike portion of the Texas Hill Country Triathlon. Stay with us. We're back on the bike course of the Texas Hill Country Triathlon. There's our leaders, and here's Dave Scott.
We're just about 3 miles from the finish line, and Kenny Glar, who had fallen off the pace about 2/3 of the way through the event, is back on the hunt. He was 5 seconds behind Greg, Mark, and it is going to come down to the run segment. Here comes Gary Flack, number 4, just about 5 minutes behind.
And Ray Browning still in 5th place. He is not out of the hunt yet. Remember, that accident has obviously taken its toll, but this course is not yet taking its toll on Carol Montgomery, recently labelled by a magazine as the mistress of pain. She is extending her lead over Jan Ripple, who is still in 2nd place, but that's a very surprised Jan Ripple to see Kathy Sloan still beside her. Remember, Jan, her specialty is the cycle portion of a triathlon. So Kathy Sloan now back into 2nd place. What a battle we have here going on between these ladies. And a great battle in the men too. So lots of excitement and anticipation here at the transition area, because we've had word from the bike course that Mark Allen, the 1989 world champion, is neck and neck right now with Greg Welch, the 1990 world champion from Australia. But in 3rd place, just 6 seconds back, is the reigning champion from Texas Hill Country, Ken Glar. So 6 seconds separating 1st, 2nd and 3rd places. And here they are already coming back into transition, and it appears like Greg Welch has taken the bonus for the bike portion. He's covered the course in 1:54.35, 2 seconds ahead of Mark Allen, a further 2 seconds back, Ken Glar. But all three in transition at the same time, and it's Greg Welch, the Australian, going out to the 10-mile run in 1st place, and Ken Glar nipping through on the corner there ahead of Mark Allen as they go out too onto the very tough 10-mile run course. And as they head out past that computer there that slaps their times in, we know we have 3 of the fastest runners in the sport now out onto the final phase of this triathlon. And look who's leading now into the first mile. It is Ken Glar, made up that few meters there over Greg Welch, and he is leading for the first time already. The 3-time champion today now ahead with Greg Welch coming back at him. They're side by side, and they appear to have dropped Mark Allen at this point. He's some 15 meters back, but there's a long ways to go, and there's a lot of hills to climb. Coming into transition now, we have 4th and 5th places. Gary Flack doing extremely well. And Ray Browning after that crash, a gallant effort for him, still up there in the hunt. So Gary Flack, quite a surprise there. The man from Santa Barbara, California, did so well last year in the U.S. National Championships in Las Vegas when he placed 12th overall. But this is a breakthrough for him, and I'm sure he's surprised to find himself in the company of Ray Browning, who's about to go out into the run in 4th place overall. Let's hope he can hold it together, but that bruising and battering he took when he took a spill there must be taking its toll. But Gary Flack, a very fine runner also. Now coming into 6th place, we have Brian Murchison from Texas. We have the man who won the swim portion, Peter Kane, also coming in, running very strong for him. He lost a little time on the bike there, but he'll be happy to finish in the top 10. He has to do that in order to win the Prix. Also in there we have Jeff Devlin. He's made up some time on the bike. He's one of the fastest runners in the field, and remember he came second last year. He was a member a couple of years ago of the US national team. He loves this race and the course. So Jeff Devlin also going out. Earlier, we had a chance to ask our present leader, world champion and World Cup Series leader, Greg Welsh, about his competition.
The guy I most respect or fear is Mark Allen. I know that he's in pretty good shape at the moment. We train together in Boulder, in Colorado, so I know what he's like.
Well, Greg certainly has to fear the running speed of Mark Allen, as well as the course experience of 3-time Texas Hill Country champion Ken Glar. And we asked him what the ideal race conditions would be for him.
If it's just a cool day, I don't really think that'll be all that wonderful. I was hoping for really hot, humid weather. If it's not going to be that, I'd like it to be some hellacious thunderstorms and just something that makes it totally out of the ordinary to throw people off.
One man who has learned to cope with storms and the searing heat of Hawaii is Ironman world champion Mark Allen. And we asked Mark about Greg Welsh, one of only 2 men to have beaten him since the end of '88.
Hopefully I'll be looking over my shoulder to see where he's at, not having to look ahead to see what's going on up in front. He's an excellent runner. He comes on strong, especially the first part of the run, tries to pull away and get a little bit of a lead. So if we're off the bike together, it's going to be pretty exciting. I usually start slow on the run and get going and pick it up as the race goes on. He starts out fast on the run, maybe slows down a little bit. So it's going to be tactical, it's going to be tough.
It certainly is going to be tough, because the man leading right now is Greg Welsh. He has opened up, just as Mark said, he's opened up some 12 to 15 meters at this point as they approach the hill coming up to mile 2. We do have to remember these two gentlemen have met before, and only on one occasion has Greg Welsh come away with a win. The last time they met was just last month, in fact, in Vancouver, British Columbia, and at that time Mark Allen was a comfortable victor, coming off the bike well ahead of Greg Welsh. So as they come up to the hill, the first man to go towards the 2-mile mark, Greg Welsh, man who's had a tremendous season so far. We have to remember he won the Worlds in Orlando last year, led that Australian team to a 1-2-3 clean sweep in the men's category and the team win. Mark Allen didn't compete in the World Championships last year, put it all on the line in Hawaii. That's the race he gears towards today, though, Texas Hill Country. And the man who's won it 3 times, he's in 3rd place, not too far off the pace at this time, Ken Glar. Ken has had a hard season, though, with Ironmen in New Zealand, Australia, and in Canada just 2 weeks ago. So his legs, they're really feeling it today. And so, with our men going out towards the 2-mile mark, the First Lady is now back into the park, and she has just won her 2nd bonus and prime of the day for the bike split. As she comes into transition, it is Carol Montgomery, the Canadian, still leading. So she'll be delighted with this, because this cycle course is almost double the distance she is used to doing. So this is the lady who is ranked number 2 in the world to Karen Smyers. That's how she finished last year at the World Championships in Orlando. And in the World Cup standings, that's exactly where she's standing right now. And this race will certainly add to her points if she can maintain her position number 1. She has, I believe, opened up more of a gap between herself and 2nd and 3rd places as we await them also in transition. But right now, Carol's time for the bike split, 2 hours, 10 minutes and 5 seconds. A phenomenal ride for the distance on such a tough course. Let's see how quickly she can make the transition to that run course. We have to remember that running is primarily Carol's sport. That's what she started off as, a runner, and she was good enough to make Canada's national cross-country running team this year. Coming in now in 2nd and 3rd places. Look at that. These 2 ladies have been together virtually throughout the 48 miles on the bike. Kathy Sloan maintaining 2nd position, just 1 or 2 seconds between these 2 ladies, though. Jan Ripple, remember, she was having a few problems out there on the bike, so a gutty effort from Jan as she's continued Now let's see what happens here in transition. Both these ladies need to go hard if they're to make any inroads on Carol whatsoever. They both know about her running skills. So these two ladies want to start there because, remember, there's $20,000 in prize money available to the top pros. A quick pat on the backside there from Kathy to Jan, because I think she knows that Jan's in some trouble here. You can see Jan's having to stand up, walk around, obviously some stomach pains or something going on there. But Kathy already now out onto the run. So hopefully for her, this could be a big breakthrough as she heads out in second place with 10 miles of tough terrain ahead of her. Jan Ripple, though, obviously in trouble. I'm not sure if she'll continue. She's had trouble like this before. Jan Ripple, remember, she was having a few problems out there on the bike, so a gutty effort from Jan as she's continued. Now let's see. Oh, she's going. That's good to see. Jan Ripple back out on the course. Takes a lot of courage when you're having those sort of problems. And here is Jan Wankling of Australia in fourth place presently. And what a season she's had. The win in the New Zealand and Australian Ironman and a second place in the German Ironman with a personal best time. She had problems, however, in Penticton a couple of weeks ago when she had a slashed knee after a chain broke. Coming into fifth place, Karen Maney. What a surprise there after a super bike split for her. She did a time of 2:16. She should be very pleased with that. But she may have problems on the run. She's not known for her running speed. There's Krista Whalen, a great biker. She has done the fourth fastest bike split so far. And with her, it looks like Janice Stamper Holland coming through into 6th or 7th place there. She had a bit of a problem on the bike, I understand. Had a flat tire, and Krista Whalen going off the wrong way in the transition area. Yes, she's been led back onto the right course. There she goes. Lost a few valuable seconds. That's what can happen. So let's see if we get Janice Stamper Holland going off there in 7th place. So those are the top 7 ladies right now onto the 10-mile run course. With 7 miles remaining and having broken the race apart, for our leaders, Mark Allen, Greg Welsh and Ken Glar, the true battle has now begun. Mark Allen stopped again. We saw him grabbing his leg a couple of times earlier, but he's walking across the road this time. He appears to be calling it quits. Let's go to Dave Scott and find out what's happening here.
You feeling your quadricep? Right here. I saw you rubbing your calf a little bit. Is that bothering you too?
It's just right in the back.
Did you notice it on the bike at all?
Looked like that. No, I took it easy on the bike because I've been having a little problem. I thought it wouldn't affect me.
You noticed it right away on the first mile of the run?
Yeah, I couldn't get going. It was tight, and then it loosened up, and then I got tight again. It's not worth it.
Going up that hill, you looked a little bit tight, and then you seemed to ease up a little bit. You were actually right with Greg, and you seemed like it wasn't bothering you.
Yeah, I was okay. Oh,
well, those had some precedent. You got Ironman.
Yeah. Sometimes your body doesn't do what you want it to.
For Mark Allen, a dramatic and unfortunate conclusion of the Texas Hill Country Triathlon.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Disappointing indeed, Mark. But the race goes on. Stay with us. We're back at this World Cup Triathlon here in the Texas Hill Country. A dramatic turn of events. Pre-race favourite Mark Allen was forced to quit around the 3-mile mark with what appears to be a hamstring injury. Greg Welsh, the man who was leading him, is unaware that Mark has dropped out. The person left to chase him to that finish line is defending champion Ken Glar of Westchester, Pennsylvania. Greg Welsh has now made the turn at the halfway point. Now he gets to see Ken Glar there as they cross for the first time. So now at this time, Greg Welsh is aware that something must have happened to Mark Allen, but he's also aware that this man knows this course, he knows this country, he knows what's in store over the next few miles. So as Ken Glar approaches that halfway turn on the run, he can see that there's quite a gap between him and Greg, but this man could be capable of pulling back that gap because he's a phenomenal runner too. And so Ken Glar makes the turn at the halfway point. He gets to see now who is in 3rd, 4th and 5th places, and it is Gary Flack. Ken checks his watch to check on the distance between him and 3rd placer. But one lady who doesn't have to check her watch, she's getting told out there on the course that she is pulling further and further away. That is Carol Montgomery. She now makes a turn and she has moved up. She is ahead of some of the men pros. And let's see who's in 2nd, 3rd and 4th places. It is Jan Ripple who's come back into 2nd place, and in 3rd place we have Kathy Sloan about to slap her too. Let's see who's in 4th and 5th. We understand moving through the field is Janet Stamper Holland, but that is Jan Wanking going through in 4th place, so she's having a fine run too. And so as they approach one of the final hills, it is Greg Welsh, the man who loves exotic locations. 3rd in Hawaii, 2nd in St. Croix, 1st in Tahiti. Today it looks like he's going to get a 1st here in Texas with just less than 2 miles to go to that finish line. Greg Welsh is way out in front with Ken Glar now a couple of minutes back. There's no way he's going to catch Greg, but what a time. Remember, Ken Glar is the man who holds the record for the course at 3:24.24. And as Ken Glar passes, there's Mark Allen, and that's Fernanda Keller of Brazil. She is out of the race. She's flatted. That's a misfortune for her too. 2 pros now out of the race. As we have our leaders approaching Comel Park, we have to remember that there are many who have yet to finish the bike stage and head out onto the demanding 10-mile run course. The temperatures are rising and the course is obviously taking its toll. Stay with us for the exciting conclusion of the 1991 Texas Hill Country Triathlon. We're back to see our leader and obviously going to be our winner today, Greg Welsh, making the final turn here at the 1991 Texas Hill Country Triathlon. This man has had a tremendous season. This will keep him in the lead for the World Cup Series. Just last weekend he came away with a win at Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and a couple of weeks prior to that he got a 1st at English Bay, Vancouver in another World Cup race. But look at the time, sub 60 minutes for the 10-mile run. That's going to bring him in with a very fast clocking, but not a record. It is 3 hours, 27 minutes and 9 seconds for Greg Welsh. And I understand it is Ken Glar coming into 2nd place, the man from Westchester, Pennsylvania. A brilliant race once again. The 3-time defending champion, 2nd today. Cannot be ashamed of that. A brilliant race as he clocks 3:29.16, just 5 minutes shy of his own record. Let's go to Dave Scott, who's with our winner.
Towards the end of the bike, my personal opinion was Kenny was going to break a breakaway. He had to have a little time on you and Mark. When you two guys came in the transition together, what were your thoughts going into the run?
Mark just wouldn't let go, you know. We were coming like the last 3 miles and Mark would look around and I'd look around. We were sprinting and because we sprinted for the preem. It was the funniest thing. He looked over, because in training we always sprint for the city limit sign. So I looked over at him and he's coming up on me and he's just smiling. I said, city limit sign, and I put in a bigger gear and I got it. So, I think he's a little bit disappointed I sprinted him, so I can't wait to get back to Boulder and tell everyone that I sprinted Mark for the preem.
Were you aware that Mark was having trouble on the run at all? He had stopped, and I don't think you saw him the first time, then he had stopped a second time.
I was aware that he must have stopped the first time because he was too far back. You know, the first time I looked around and he was like 15 metres back after he'd stopped, and I thought, hang on a minute, you know, I didn't do anything. I didn't surge, I didn't run faster or anything, so what's his problem? And then the second time I looked around and I was like a minute and something in front of the whole field. And I thought, well, okay, I've gotten ridden Kenny, but I didn't know about Mark. No, I was unaware.
Good luck to you. We expect big results.
Thanks, Dave.
And here's third placer Gary Flack from Santa Barbara. A breakthrough performance from him at 3:37.15. And fourth placer Jeff Devlin came through the field on the run, and he collects a 3:37.45. And here's Ray Browning, the man who gutted it out after that bike spill. He comes into fifth place at 3:39.08. And the first Texan, Brian Murchison from Dallas, held it together, ninth last year, today sixth at 3:41.17 on the clock. And the first thing he wants to do is get those running shoes off and probably head towards that massage tent. And just entering Como Park, it is the lady who was the winner of the first World Cup race this year in St. Croix in the US Virgin Islands. The fastest on the swim, the bike and the run today. And she crosses at 3 hours, 54 minutes and 40 seconds. A great win for the Canadian. Dave Scott is with her.
Fabulous race. For your first over distance race, you got to be pleased.
I'm surprised. It really hurt that run, though. The guy was just hanging on because it was a long way.
Did you feel the discomfort on the bike, or did it just all of a sudden hit on the run?
I felt great on the swim. I knew I could get the preem, so I was really excited about that. And the bike, I wanted to get that preem. I felt great coming off the bike, but I tried to go really easy at the beginning of the run because I felt really good. But even though I went easy, I still died at the end. But, I had a good lead. I'm really happy.
And she should be happy, and another lady who should be happy as her husband Ken Glard cheers her on the sidelines there. That is Jan Wanklin. Remember, at the halfway point we saw her in fourth place, and here she is coming off the run into second place. And let's watch her come through that finish line. Remember, this is the lady who already this year has won 2 Ironman events in Australia and New Zealand. Today, second place, third last year. Her time today, 4 hours, 5 minutes and 13 seconds. And another lady who made inroads on the run, a brilliant sub-70-minute performance from Janet Stamper Holland there, claiming third place. And in fourth place, the lady who had difficulty on the run and the bike, Jan Ripple from Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 4:07.35. What a courageous performance from her today. She really plugged it out on the bike, came into transition in third place, just behind Kathy Sloan. She has now finished fourth overall. She obviously needs some help. But again, that's the reason that lady is on that US national team. And Kathy Sloan, what a delighted finisher as she closes in fifth place overall at 4:08.28. There's a lot more excitement to come from the Texas Hill Country Triathlon finish line. Stay tuned. Well, we told you it would be one exciting event, and that's exactly what it turned out to be, with reigning world champion Greg Welsh of Australia coming away with the win. But what a battle it was throughout the field. Dave Scott, your impressions of today's race?
Well, I think we looked at the race at the start, and it was really a three-man matchup, and it turned out that way on the bike split. Kenny Glau, Mark Allen, and Greg Welch really took command of the race. Unfortunately, Mark was hampered with some leg problems and had to drop out on the run. But I think the real story was looking at third and fourth. Gary Flack, not a virtual unknown, but certainly someone who has not been in the top five, finished in third place, and coming in fourth was Jeff Devlin with a fabulous split.
Indeed he did, and the women's winner, Carol Montgomery, the Canadian, a fabulous time, a fabulous win, but what a battle for second place, Dave.
Well, again, I think we saw the race behind Carol. She took off and no one could catch her, but Jan Wanklin moved all the way up to second place. Janet Stamper Holland in third, and Jan Ripple, a short course specialist, finished a strong fourth.
Thank you, Dave. And Greg Simmons, you were out there following some very special people today. Your impressions too?
Oh, I was just impressed, to say the least. But the guy who probably best sum this up is Jim McLaren, the young man who's been competing in triathlon now with most of his left leg missing. He said it best. He said that the sport of triathlon has given him back the joy of living. For a lot of athletes out here today, I think that pretty well sums it up.
Indeed it does. Almost 800 finishing this particular race today. A great event all round. The 1991 Texas Hill Country Triathlon. Maybe we'll see you here spectating or even crossing that finish line next year. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage of this great event. For Dave Scott and Greg Simmons, I'm Steve King.
Thank you.